Ranging from the tense, pessimistic atmosphere to feelings of existential dread, H.P. Lovecraft's tales of horror have always managed to create an intense, spine-chilling experience for fans. While he has carved a niche for himself as an author, Lovecraft's works have inspired several B-grade horror films, especially in the late 80s and 90s. While The Call of Cthulhu, Reanimator, and Necronomicon are a handful of examples, today we shall focus on the 1997 film Bleeders, inspired by Lovecraft's underrated short story, The Lurking Fear. Directed by Peter Swatek, this Canadian horror film takes us on a wild ride against the backdrop of an isolated fishing village where monsters lurk around every corner in search of prey. So without further ado, let us dive right into the movie's plot and explore this Lovecraftian tale of freaky monsters and mortal men.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
It's in the blood. The horrifying tale of Bleeders and everything that it borrowed from Lovecraft's works. Starting with a scene in a European household in the 17th century where the Van Dams seem to be practicing inbreeding. The introduction does not give us much context into this family as the screen turns black and the title appears on screen. While it is called The Bleeders, this movie was originally titled Hemoglobin. The Apex Studios decided to change the name and release it nearly 10 years after they first started working on the script. As the intro fades, the movie starts on a boat and focuses on John Strauss and his wife Kathleen as they embark on a journey to seek out his long-lost relatives. As they reach the town, we notice the Van Dam name on the docks while John starts hemorrhaging and gets a nosebleed. As he struggles to maintain his balance, he has strange visions of skeletons and dead bodies in forests and soon passes out after accidentally kicking his medicine off the boat. While Kathleen scrambles to find a doctor, one of the local women tells her that there's a new doctor in town and that he lives on the other side of the island. The town seems mostly populated by women, and as two women observe the newly arrived couple while one helps them get to the doctor. As the scene shifts to a household where a few kids play in the basement, strange occurrences take place as one of the kids spots someone lurking under their basement through a maintenance hole. While the kid frantically calls for help, we get back to John and Kathleen as they meet with Dr. Marlowe, who is played by none other than Rutger Hauer. At first glance, Dr. Marlowe appears as an old man who has only recently moved to the island after losing all his life's work. He does not seem particularly interested in treating John, but he begrudgingly agrees when Kathleen informs him of John's rare congenital blood disease. She tells Dr. Marlowe all about her husband's condition and that he is an orphan who wishes to find his relatives so that they can help him find a cure. While the couple trace John's ancestors to this island, Dr. Marlowe does not seem to be of much help, and all we learn is that he lost his license due to an alleged drinking problem before moving here. His character seemingly appears as a foil to John, a dying young man who is desperate to save his life, in contrast to Marlowe, who has seen enough and has accepted that he only has death in store for him. As we direct our attention to the town, a bunch of women uncover recently excavated coffins that show that something tore through the casket from underneath and sucked the body somewhere beneath the ground. We soon learn that the island seems to be home to many terrible secrets, which are reflected in the land's topography and frequent tremors and earthquakes. When John and Kathleen first experience these tremors, Dr. Marlowe reassures Kathleen that the earthquakes are caused by the island settling, which suggests that the land underneath is hollow in some spots. However, these earthquakes seem to be the least of John and Kathleen's troubles, as they uncover some deep, dark secrets while searching for John's relatives. They do start picking up on the fact that the town seems to be run by women, and one of the ladies in their accommodation assures her that the men are just away at sea. Their hotel also doubles as a funeral home where the receptionist carries out embalming procedures in the basement, and the couple soon settles down in a bridal suite when John starts feeling restless and agitated. The movie adapts to a slow pace, but this has always been the case with writers O'Bannon and Shusett, who are notoriously known for spending their sweet time with the plot. Slowly, things start to make sense, and we establish a link between the Van Dams and John Strauss. After a worried Kathleen pays Dr. Marlowe a visit in the hopes that he could cure her husband. Marlowe tells her all about Van Dam's history and how they moved to this island after their country decided to outlaw incest. They were known for inbreeding, which led to several complications and genetic defects among the newborns until their legacy faded into nothingness. While Kathleen hopes to get in touch with them, Marlowe tells her that the last of them died decades ago and then directs her to a nurse who might be able to help her more. As Kathleen tries to process this information, she decides to leave, but not before dropping the bomb and revealing that she's pregnant. Sadly, John seems to be caught up with his disease and does not seem to know anything about Kathleen's pregnancy. In fact, his disease sometimes causes him to experience an insatiable hunger, and he tries to satisfy this craving by nearly forcing himself upon Kathleen. While this scene may leave viewers in shock, it is nothing compared to what was set in store for the hotel's receptionist Alice, who also works at her family's funeral home right underneath the hotel. As she opens one of the coffins, a deformed creature breaks through the bottom paneling of the coffin and drags the dead body underground. In an unfortunate series of events, this creature, whom we will eventually come to know as one of the Bleeders, manages to get its hands on Alice and drag her through an underground tunnel that seemingly stretches across the entire island. At this point, we can connect a few dots and uncover the great secret of the Van Damme family, who also act as Bleeders, or entities who draw blood from the sick or the dead to keep themselves alive. While it was assumed that they had ceased to exist ages ago when the villagers burned their home down, they made a life for themselves underneath their grand manor and survived for several decades through inbreeding. Unfortunately, this practice came at a great cost for them, and their later generations seem to have mutated into distorted hermaphrodites who needed to feed on the embalmed flesh of the corpses to keep going. As food ran scarce, the Van Dammes resorted to feeding on the living, causing a series of disappearances around the island. While this family continues to wreak havoc from the cracks and crevices beneath the surface, John and Kathleen visit the Van Damme manor, where Nurse Lexi manages to recognize John. She tells him that he was born at the mansion around the same time the villagers burned the place down and that they had to get him out of there and send him away for his safety. She seems to hold a lot of answers, and she tells him that she gave him the Strauss surname because he was her favorite composer, but also refuses to divulge any information about his cravings. While the Van Dammes continue to attack civilians and suck them underneath the ground, John insists on entering the manor, and Nurse Lexi finally takes him inside and reveals their true nature. It seems like the house was made up of fire-resistant materials and was never truly destroyed. While it was a safe place for their family, the Islanders somehow managed to uncover their secret with some assistance from Dr. Marlowe. They soon realized that the hermaphrodites are afraid of light, and the Islanders decide to move to the lighthouse to keep themselves safe while they devise a plan to get rid of the Van Damme menace. In the meantime, Kathleen struggles to help John with his cravings, and they finally make their way to Dr. Marlowe's home, where John feeds on an embalmed Van Damme baby and finally satisfies his craving. He ends up getting intimate with Kathleen soon after, and the couple shares a sweet moment while the entire island prepares their guns and knives for a showdown against the Van Dammes. While the intimate scenes between the couple have been fairly cut out of the final version, an alternate cut of the film titled Hemoglobin makes for an R-rated version that doesn't shy away from nudity. In any case, we get back to the deformed entities as they make their way to town while the Islanders shoot their guns at them and attempt to bring them down. While the townsfolk scramble around to protect themselves, John decides to make himself worthwhile and throws himself in the thick of things. He saves the day by keeping his long-lost family members at a distance from the Islanders, but he also loses himself to the dark side in the process. As he embraces his true legacy, John becomes one of the Van Dammes and even engages in sexual relations with his long-lost twin sister after leaving his wife behind. While Kathleen deals with the horrors of being pregnant with a demonic entity, John settles down amongst the Van Dammes, and the movie ends with him staring at his reflection as he comes to terms with his new life. While the finale may leave one in shock, Bleeders takes us along on John's journey to his true family as he overcomes obstacles and illnesses to reunite with his blood and embrace his true destiny. Of course, the movie may have taken a roundabout approach to get to this end, but it manages to keep the viewers engrossed as every new scene brings about a new twist that leaves us more invested than ever. As far as dialogues go, the movie certainly has its fair share of amusing quotes, and it makes for an entertaining one-time watch, at the very least. The actors do a commendable job of doing justice to these characters who are nothing but full of quirks and character development arcs of their own. As a low-budget horror film, Bleeders certainly exceeds expectations and incorporates suspense and thriller elements that keeps us on the edge of our seats. Marvel's verdict. To wrap things up, Bleeders certainly makes for an entertaining watch and manages to do justice to the universe created by Lovecraft and The Lurking Dead. While this movie might not make it to a horror fan's top 3 favorites, it is a well-made tribute to Lovecraftian horror that certainly manages to recreate the original story's vibe and makes it a worthwhile watch for all horror fans out there.
If you enjoyed this video, click on the like button and comment below about which other movie reviews you would want to watch. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.